All right, guys, welcome back to round three of our Red Riot Games Grand Archive Regional. We are bringing you, looks like, our first wind deck of the day. We finally did it, Kel. We've gotten a wind deck on stream.
All right, yeah, finally. Over under on it being Lorraine. My guess
Well,
is Lorraine.
looks like looks like a turn one tactful sergeant, so that's sort of leaning towards Lorraine for me.
And then on the opposing side, we have yet another fire deck. We have seen fire every single matchup so far. Um, this play doesn't really tell us what the deck is, though I would lean maybe towards Rye. And if it is a Fire Rye versus a Wind Lorraine, that is an absolute classic matchup for Grand Archive.
Yeah, it looks like I think in the Idle Thoughts there we saw a Crux card, so I think it might
Ooh,
actually be Fire Lorraine over there.
you could be right. It is difficult to see the hand so far.
Right.
We have immediately slamming down a level 1 Lorraine, and this is going to be the thing where, same song and dance, level 1 Lorraine plus the Sword of Seeking. Um, yeah, I mean they're the aggressor right now. They have ally on board. And they're just gonna go face with the weapon.
Yeah, it's a little unfortunate that they had to develop this Tactful Sergeant on turn one because they weren't able to attack their champion, but it looks like we have another one. So yeah, they're just going to come in for one, pay for that Tactful Sergeant, and she says, on enter, if you've attacked with your champion this turn, you draw a card into your memory.
Yep, which is very nice. It's almost as good as drawing a card.
Right.
And after that, we're just gonna continue to go face. So Wind Lorraine here immediately establishing itself as an aggressor. Though we'll see what the fire player has to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great start for Win the Rain, especially these being the bodies that are on board. Like, usually Win the Rain is starting with stuff like Swift Recruit or Wind Rider Vanguard that are a little bit easier to remove because they just don't have as much health. But these two 1/4 Tactful Sergeants are probably going to hold down the board for a while, and that sort of just means that as soon as our Win the Rain player finds a Phalanx Captain, they're going to be able to deploy it pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean like Phalanx Captain, Banner Knight, if they're running them in the deck, can push a lot of damage here, right? Like there's a world where they just go to level 2 and then jam out a Team Pumper.
Right. Yeah, so we'll see what the fire player's answer is. It looks like they're going to fire off a devastating blow, use one of the charges on their Sword of Seeking to come in for 4 and deal with one of those. Tactful Sergeants, they probably have the same idea that we do. Leaving those on the
Yeah.
board, probably not a good idea.
Yeah, it's just going to get worse as the game goes on, and you're immediately on the back foot here. So they have to, clean up the board just as much as they can. And 1/4 is just honestly, we mentioned this in the last round, but just very annoying, right?
So big. So is that looks like a Swift Recruit. I think that is also the new Supporter Pack 1 art of Swift Recruit.
I think you are correct. Swift Recruit being just a fantastic card. Just a good old honorable vanguard, but also has the ability to block for you, which is fantastic. Has intercept on it.
Yeah. Yeah, no class bonus either. So just like every win deck is playing Swift Recruit because it's just such an efficient body, and then when it dies, you get that floating memory on your next turn.
Yeah, very very nice. Looks like we're gonna just immediate Crusader Ring to draw a card. Just increase the options here. I mean, like you're on the back foot, right? You're staring down two allies. You want to draw as many as you can just to make sure your plays are as efficient as possible.
Yeah, and I
And it
think this is
looks
typically like a pretty rough matchup for Fire Lorraine, so she's gonna have to really, find all of the right cards to close this one out.
Yeah, and if you're the win player here and you see them immediately go into Grand Crusader's ring instead of leveling to level 2,
Hmm.
um, I'm thinking that they probably don't have a board sweeper in their hand, right? They don't have
Right.
the flame sweep.
Maybe that's just what they want you to think, oh, and they're holding on to it so you deploy more things onto the
Yeah,
board.
just get yeah, lure them into a false sense of security.
Right.
Play more dudes. Um, though then again, I don't remember how many cards they had in their memory at the start of the turn, so I'm not sure if they could have immediately just jumped into uh level 2.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It looks like they have at least a honorable Vanguard over there. They just discarded that off of their hasty, so it's going to be a little bit easier for them to do it next turn. And like you said, a sweep here would be so important. That's the sort of like huge swings that I think Fire Lorraine needs in this matchup to sort of take control. Because all of their like the way that Fire Lorraine tends to finish out games with stuff like Rending Flames and Devastating Blows are very easily thwarted by stuff like Deflecting Edge and Veiling Breeze, which, usually are four ofs in Wind Lorraine.
Yeah, for sure. What is the ally on the board there? Is that just a courier
Yeah, I think that is a hasty
or
messenger.
hasty messenger? Yes.
Yeah. Delivering the good word, getting rid of some float, drawing some more cards.
Yeah, unfortunately though, for the fire player, Wind still has some allies on board. Um, yeah, they have all of the board control here. Um, so it'll be interesting to see how they follow up if they want to try to kill up that messenger or if they just want to go more face, you know?
Right. Yeah, it's so tough. All of the threats in the Wind deck are so efficient. That's, why she's gained so much popularity is because all of the Wind threats specifically are just the most efficient in the game. You talk about stuff like Wind Rider Vanguard is a 2/3 with Vigor, which is just like an insane sat line for this game. Being
Yeah.
able to not only attack on your turn, but then wake up and be able to sort of play defense on your opponent's turn as well.
Yeah, and it looks like we're just gonna have a Savage Slash picking off that messenger into more attacks to the face.
Right. Yeah, as high as her life total is, it's not unsurmountable. She's already taken 7 damage out of her 24, and as soon as we find something like a Banner Knight or a Phalanx Captain, that really adds up. But it looks like the Wind Lorraine player is actually holding on to a fair number of Crux cards in their hand. That is one of the pitfalls of this extremely powerful archetype is that sometimes you just draw all of your level 3 cards and sort of like Water Xander, if they get clumped in your hand, you can't really do anything with them. So we'll see if that ends up being a problem for a Wind Lorraine player here.
Yeah, it also looks like Fire Lorraine did end up leveling to level 2. So we're gonna see some Lorraine action this turn for sure.
Big sweep.
Possibly big sweepies, but we'll see. They're kind of in the tank here, debating whether they're what sequencing they want to do.
Yeah, I suppose if they had a flame sweep, they'd just be slamming it, right?
Ooh, well then maybe they just wanted to get maximum value out of their dungeon guide here.
Sure.
Yeah, why not? Especially if you're sitting on a lot of Crux cards, right? I mean, both players
Mhm.
could be sitting on a lot of Crux cards.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
Yeah, we
getting
might
up to level 3.
we might get our first Spirit Blade Ascension of the day, our first of I assume many.
Yes, yeah, that card is a bit of a house.
Yep, there it is.
Yep. Yeah, so Spirit Blade Ascension does a lot of work as you can see here. It is going to get that Blade of Avarice, draw some cards, and just kind of churn through the deck.
Yeah, so the important part for people that are maybe unfamiliar with how this card works, the way that Spirit Blade Ascension works is it says, as part of a cost, as an additional cost to play this card, you put a sword regalia from your field back into your material deck, and then you get one back out. So the way that works with Sword of Avarice is, as part of cost, you can put that Sword of Avarice back into your material deck, get that same Sword of Avarice back out, and allow you to draw 2 cards, and then they just cycle through those to draw just an astronomical amount of cards.
Yeah, it's a great draw engine. Ooh, is that a Ghost of Pendragon? That's another great draw engine. That's going to put the Sword of Avarice back into the material deck and then also let them draw 2 cards so they can, rematerialize that sword on a future turn. That was a very, very bursty, big turn for the fire player there.
Yeah, very, very casual draw 9 and put a 3/4 on the board.
Yeah. And we mentioned it, like 3/4 is like large in Grand Archive, right?
Yeah.
Ghosts is one of my favorite cards. It is 2 drop 3/4, draw 2 cards, and then it has like quote a downside of putting a card back into your material deck that you can then play later to draw
Right.
more cards.
Yeah, just such an insane card. Like if it didn't have any text and it was just a 2 mana 3/4, I think it would be an insane card.
That would be like the best statted card in the entire game, I
Right.
think. Yeah. Um. So yeah, I mean, if you're the win player here, you're like, oh no, like you've got to be sweating a little bit. They're kind of popping off, like the fire player is kind of popping off, and now you have to be afraid, right? Because they're setting up so they can do a lot of card draw, but like attack multiple times in a turn, attack with very large attacks multiple times. So it's getting very scary. Well, one way to answer that is with your own dungeon guide.
The
So
dueling dungeon guides, a great way to find parity is to just that thing that you did seemed pretty good. I think I'll try doing it myself.
yeah, what's pretty cool here is that both Lorraine players are actually playing a different level 3 Lorraine. This one is actually Lorraine Spirit Ruler, which on enter they get to choose a Sword Regalia card with cost 1 or less from the banishment and put it into the field, which is pretty sweet. Also gets an additional 3 counters on it. So yeah, get a nice little sword back.
Yeah, it looks like usually you pick up a drawn blade with your spirit ruler trigger because it just allows you to draw an extra card and then gives you a nice, healthy one attack sword with 4 durability.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you said, it looks like we have a Crux Knight on the other side, and I think we did see a Spirit Blade in Soul get banished earlier to Dungeon Guide. So looks like they're probably on a little bit of a bigger, trying to resolve in Soul and burst through you rather than this sort of steady card advantage that Spirit Ruler gets you.
Yeah, for sure. And you can definitely tell that these players are very knowledgeable about their decks at the breakneck speed that they're playing these cards, right? Like they're resolving them faster than we can talk about them. Uh, but at the end of the day, like Fire Lorraine, a lot of cards in hand. Here's another Ascension, right? Um, we're gonna see Spirit Blade Ascension quite a bit.
Yeah, these players are playing lightning fast. It feels like we're watching at 2 times speed. They're just churning through all of these cards because they both, like you said, they both know what's going on. Nobody's gonna have to pick up the Spirit Blade Ascension and give it a read. Like everybody's very familiar with
Yeah,
what this boogeyman deck is doing.
yeah, and I think they're just kind of like churning through their deck, trying to find the more or less like combo pieces, right?
Right.
Trying to find the cards that they can sequence together to just smash in for tons and tons of damage. And that's kind of what the deck does, right? Um, it functions very much like a combo deck. I'll be honest, right? You just draw a whole bunch of cards, play a bunch of stuff, and try to kill your opponent with a couple big burst attacks. Here we
Yeah,
have
the thing that
no
Fire
value deck.
Lorraine has to watch out for is even though she has 12 cards in hand, they don't have the same sort of like deployable board presence that something like
Yep.
Lorraine does, where they can drop some cheap allies and then play Phalanx Captains for free, Banner Knights, etc. It's a little bit harder for Fire Lorraine to do that since they usually close out the game with these big, attacks. But we did find the namesake card in Spirit Blade and Soul, which brings all of your 1 or less cost swords from your material deck and your banished into play that can attack as if they were allies. It's very, very strong.
Yeah. So they suddenly have a bunch of allies on the field here. I do like the cheeky no value dungeon guide that they played, right? Which is kind of like playing into what you're talking about. They don't have a lot of allies from hand, right? So they just have to play the dungeon guide as a 1/3, which isn't like too bad. Um, and
Yeah,
so
they do
here we're
get a
just
lot
gonna
of damage through here though with this in Soul. And
yeah
the cool synergy about this card with Lorraine Crux Knight is she herself gets plus X attack, where X is the amount of swords in your banish zone. So even after this turn, when all of your swords go away, something like a Savage Slash or a Devastating Blow here comes in for 10.
ooh yeah it's it's a lot, right? Um, so yeah, this is a very very big turn for Fire Lorraine, right? Pumping in an absurd amount of damage. 22. Ouch. Almost dead on this turn.
Out of nowhere too. They were at 0, right? Like they hadn't taken like virtually any damage.
Yeah,
Okay,
like
sure.
Yeah, that's that's rough. That's real rough.
Yeah, so it looks like they find the last Spirit Blade Ascension. They flip one of their swords into a prismatic edge, and as long as that reveals a fire card, which it does, they're able to deal that last 3 damage to Lorraine.
Yep. Yep. Wow. And like I said, it functions like a combo deck, right? You
Yeah.
saw it there. It's just like no health, and now you're dead. You've taken no damage, and now you're dead. Which is, one thing I really like about Grand Archive, because we have two decks featuring the same champion, more or less, right? They have a different level 3 champion, but they're
Hmm.
both Lorraine decks. They both play Crux, but they both play fundamentally in very different ways, right? One deck is more about board presence, while the other deck is more about like these big swingy combo kill turns, which I think is really, really cool.
Yeah, they're like wildly different decks for sure. And yeah, I think that is super interesting, and it makes whereas typically, yeah, and in another card game, this would be like a mirror match of sorts. It doesn't feel like that at all, since the decks are so divergent from each other.
Yeah, for sure. And like the fire deck isn't just like your typical like burn fire deck, right? It's not like I lightning bolt you for 3, play a
Mhm.
2/2 with, haste or whatever. It's like, yeah, it's like a legit combo deck. And in a lot of ways it's feels similar to playing with Rye, like Fire Rye, but
Mhm.
different in other ways, right? But the idea is somewhat the same, right? You want to stabilize the board, you want to draw a whole bunch of cards, and then you want to play your couple cards that close out the game in 1 or 2 turns.
Yeah, a little bit more stable, a little bit less explosive than Rye.
Yeah, for sure. Uh, Rye can do a lot of shenanigans. Let's put
Yeah.
it that way. Rye can do some shenanigans. No, that's not to say that Lorraine can't do shenanigans. We literally just saw it. She drew like a
Right.
million cards, right? Um, so yeah. Uh, as the wind player here, so if you were in that position, right? If you were the wind player here, what is what are you thinking? What's your game plan?
Yeah, so it's actually a really huge pickup from the fire player because I do believe that this is a wind favored matchup. So the wind player's not super thrilled to have lost game one because the play draw is super important here. But they assumingly a lot of these wind Lorraine decks are going to play cards like Veiling Breeze and Deflecting Edge in their sideboard, and those are both just insanely high value cards against these fire decks. Deflecting Edge specifically single handedly shuts off Rending Flames, which is crazy. So I think they had a really good start. So they're probably looking to do something similar. But yeah, I'm sure they're not super thrilled to be down a game here in this assumingly favorable matchup. Because even if they win this one, the next one, the fire player will get to be on the play, which is huge.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And you did mention Veiling Breeze. We'll have to see if that comes in. Veiling Breeze is a card that can, depending on the situation, almost blank an aggro player's turn or a combo player's turn, um, just because it just can prevent an absurd amount of damage. It's a card where you reveal any amount of wind element cards from your memory, and then for the turn, whenever damage we dealt to your champion, prevent an amount of damage equal to the number of cards revealed this way. And that's for the whole turn, right? So you can
Right.
just kind of like shut down your opponent's turn if they're trying to like kind of pop off.
Yeah,
Um,
especially against cards like Spirit Blade and Soul, where you get all of these swords on board, but they all only like attack by themselves for 1 or 2 damage. If you have a Veiling Brace for 2, you just take literally no damage from Ensoul, which is crazy.
yeah, it's really good, and it just you know compounds out further the more cards you have in your memory. So if you did a turn where you played a whole bunch of cards, maybe a bunch of allies, and you're sitting on a Veiling Breeze in your hand, then you're feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
Note, it's only preventing damage to your champion, so it doesn't prevent damage to your allies. So your opponent could use the opportunity to clear your board, but still, it's something to keep an eye on going forward here.
So it looks like we had a similar start. A no enter the battlefield trigger Tactful Sergeant on turn one from Wind, and then on the fire side, looks like we played an Honorable Vanguard into a Cremation Ritual. Get rid of her, draw two
Nice.
cards, and put a floating memory in your graveyard.
I was just thinking like these poor floating memory allies, like their best use is just to die, right? Like
Yeah.
that she's just like, "Hey, I'm here." Oh no. Like immediately immediately yeeted.
Yeah, poor
Um
Library Witch gets it the worst for sure.
yeah, she gets cremated quite a bit. So we have an exact mirror of the last game. Like we have as you said, we have that tactful sergeant into a second tactful sergeant on turn 2, but this time they get that on enter value.
Yeah, and like I said, I think this is like a really good start for them. So they're probably pretty thrilled to be able to do it again. They just have to, hope that the Fire Lorraine player doesn't explode past them like they did last game.
Yeah, like any like team pumper is going to be huge here. I mean, these are 1/4s, which are just annoying to deal with.
Mhm.
And so like Phalanx Captain, Banner Knight, any of these like team pumpers are going to be like really, really solid here. And we have another hasty messenger. Drawing and discarding yet another poor honorable vanguard. Uh, yeah, just throw it right into the bin.
Everybody has their job, and that's hers, so I'm afraid.
Your job to the trash. Go on, walk straight to the trash. Um, but yeah, so it looks like fire is still a little bit in the tank, right? Um, or is it a win player's turn?
Yeah, we're on the win player here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's looking very similar. Where the fire player looks like they're behind, but they looked like they were behind last game too. So it's very deceptive. Like you said, sort of like a combo deck. The power turns sort of appear out of nowhere. So you can have a pretty innocuous hand, nothing really on board, and then out of nowhere, boom, you do 20 damage.
Yeah, and I mean they're sitting on a decent number of cards there, right? They have
Right.
at least one card in hand. I'm not sure if it's stacked on top, and then they have a fair number of cards, 6 or 7 in memory. So their total, cards available to them decently high, right? 7 to 8
Right.
cards. Um, so like as the win player here, you currently have the tempo, and you just have to think to yourself, okay, I just want to maximize damage. Hey, look at that, another like just really efficient body there.
Yeah, there's that Wind Rider Vanguard. She is just way way more powerful than she looks. A 2/3 for 3 is in this game such an insane stat line. Like anybody that comes from other games, especially stuff like Magic the Gathering, the 3 mana for a 2/3 feels not great, but in this game it is just
Wow.
so huge.
It feels like 1999 Magic. three
Yeah,
three mana,
sure.
3 mana 2/3 with like a
Right.
mediocre effect, right? Not like 2023 where you have a 4 mana 6/6 haste with a
Right.
bunch of abilities. Um, but ooh, here we
Oh
have
wow,
board sweeper. This is
that is
really what they needed.
huge.
That's gonna
They're
draw
gonna
him a
take a little bit
casual
of damage in
3.
return, but draw 3 cards, kill your board is just about as good as it gets.
Yeah, that's pretty that's pretty solid, right? Like that is like the best imaginable play I think for the fire player here.
Yeah,
Um,
that's really how you break these mirrors wide open. Is all these cleave attacks, especially at level 2 with Lorraine, are just such a near insurmountable tempo swing that yeah, 3 cards and completely resetting your opponent is going to be pretty catastrophic here for the win player. So we'll have to see if they can find a way out of that.
Yeah, for those of you not like completely following it, that was such an important turn. So what they did was they leveled up to level 2 Lorraine, so the Lorraine's attacks get +2 and then all on kill draw a card. And then they played the Flame Sweep, which has a base attack of 1 plus the 2 from the Lorraine plus the 1 from the weapon, making it into 4 attack. So that's able to clear the entire board, and then you get the card draw for all the ones that died. Also, 4 to your opponent's face too, because it hit them as well.
Hmm. Yeah, just such a huge tempo play. It's going to leave Wind really on the back foot here. But Lorraine's never out, especially with the power that her level 3 provides. With of course Spirit Blade Ascension, just refilling her hand so efficiently. Hopefully they can turn the corner here. It looks like they actually do have a dungeon guide, so they're ready for level 3 whenever they feel like it's time.
Yeah, is it time? They got 2 cards down, reconsidering. Um, it's a interesting situation, right? Um, suddenly their board is gone. Their opponent has like a massive hand,
Right.
and you need to do something to come back, right?
It does look like they're gonna go for it here. They're attacking with the rain to crack their drawn blade, which is usually a pretty telling sign that it's going to be followed by a dungeon guide getting that drawn blade back into play. But
That
I'm
does
not
make
sure what the
sense.
holdup is here.
Yeah, that does make sense. Though, unfortunately, once again, we mentioned this earlier this stream. They're not going to get value out of Lorraine waking up and being able to attack again with the rules change that happened a little while ago. So
Thank God.
Dungeon Guide will not allow for a second attack. But as you said, drawing more cards is just great.
Yeah, especially when you're behind on board here. Yeah, so it
Yeah.
looks like they are going to do that. Going to play a Dungeon Guide, go up to Spirit Ruler. And I believe they did crack that draw, but they haven't moved it, but I think they're just, like we said earlier, these players know
Ooh,
what's going on. Oh, they didn't
actually,
actually. So it looks
yeah,
like
they
we got
got
a Sword of Seeking back.
interesting. I wonder why.
Yeah, I'm
Was there
not sure.
something preventing them to doing that? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm
But
not sure what we missed here, but regardless, this level 3 is going to be super powerful. Maybe they just wanted to keep a sword on board once they start flickering with Spirit Blade Ascension, because with only one sword on board, it does sort of put you in a place where you can't use your sword to attack because you have to keep it to flicker it.
that's true. That is true. Maybe the end goal here is just to have multiple swords on board. Um, and yeah, you do need basically like two to
Right.
do the Spirit's Blessing. Yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like we're just going to do some wheel spinning over here on the Fire Lorraine player. Again, like we mentioned last game, the card quality, like Fire Lorraine is much more consistent in that she has lots of draw power and hasty messengers and cremation rituals and creative shocks, but it means that her card quality is a little bit lower, so she's going to be looking for some of her power cards here. So we're doing a lot of wheel spinning, trying to find something to close this game out.
Yeah, I feel like you're gonna see that a lot from fire decks today, right? Unless we
Yeah.
see an off meta Fire Xander. A lot of the fire decks currently, this is what you see. They have a lot of card draw, and they're just trying to find the big pieces they need to either wipe the board or just straight up wipe your opponent, off the face of Earth. Um, yes.
Yeah, it's looking
And
like we're
so,
doing another ascension here. They might start getting, Prismatic Edge, which is one way to actually deal some damage. They do get to take a card away from their opponent. The Wind trigger is your opponent banishes a card at random from their memory forever. So it is essentially making them discard a card. And then, of course, the Fire trigger is that they get to deal 3 damage. So they're
yeah.
going to look to sort of just like War of Attrition, use their card advantage here to close out the game.
Fortunately for our wind player there, I think they only had one card in their memory, and I think it is a non-wind card. I think it was just a Banner Knight.
Yeah, that is great.
All right, so we have what was that? An Insole coming out?
Yep, looks like Insole is here, but I don't think it probably is enough here with Lorraine's attack,
It's already up to
especially with Prismatic Edge,
19
which is
damage.
base 3 power, is huge.
Yeah, up to 20 damage dealt already without the sword. 23 with the sword. They still have card in hand. Do they have the extra 5 to push it? Yep, looks
Yeah,
like
looks
looks
like they
like it.
do. Yeah. Wow,
Yeah,
such
jeez.
such just blazing fast games today.